Hello, and welcome to the basics of creating a simple and conditional mail merge within the Razor's Edge mail module. Today we're going to go over how to create both simple and conditional mail merges, how to run them, and the common problems we can run into while doing so. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to log into the Razor's Edge, and we're going to go to the left navigation menu and click on the mail module. While in here, we'll select the type of mail merge we're going to complete. Today we're going to be going over donor acknowledgement letter mail merges, but these steps can be applied to most of the other types of mail merges as well, including honor memorials, receipts, and also quick letters. If we're going to be creating a new mailing, we're going to highlight the mailing we're going to do and go up to New, or if we have one that's already been created, we can go over here and highlight it and click Open, or you can also double click on it to open up the mailing parameter file. Once open, the first thing we're going to do is select the query that we're going to be using for this mailing. On the General tab, you're going to see an Include button. When you click that, there's going to be three options. One is for all records. If you have this selected, then it won't filter on any query, and it'll just grab all of the constituents that meet the filters we set up within the mailing itself. If we go to Selected Records, we can select a specific query of records that we want to acknowledge. If we go to one record, we can pick one specific constituent or gift record to create a letter for. Today we're going to be doing selected records and searching for a specific query that we have. You can either search by the created on date, the name, the format, description, or created by to see just your user's queries. Once we have our search settings in there, we can click Find Now, and it will pull up the queries that meet those conditions. We also have the option for Add New, and also Edit if we want to create a brand new query to base this mailing off of, or edit an existing one. Once we have that selected, we can go down to Include Gifts with these dates to choose our date range that we're going to be doing our mailing for. This will allow us to further filter on any query that's selected, although I will mention that having a query selected is completely optional for mailing. You can choose between gift date, which is the date on the actual gift tab of a gift, or the GL post date, which is on the miscellaneous tab of a gift record. You have options for include all dates. We can choose specific range of dates, or any of these other options as well. For today, we're going to do include all dates to grab all date ranges within this query. Also on this tab, we have options for our soft credits. So if you have soft credits on gifts, you can choose to create letters for either the donor of the gift, the person who is the soft credit recipient, or both. These same options apply to credit matching gifts. So for the matching gift, you can have the company that gave the matching gift be credited for the gift, the donor who gave the original gift that was matched, or you can have them both receive a letter of acknowledgement. There's also options for include these constituents, where we can either include or exclude constituents that are marked as inactive, that are marked as deceased, or is marked as having no valid address on their constituent record. There's also an option to create an output query. This will create a query of either constituents or gifts, depending on which is selected, that received a letter in this particular mailing. Next, we're going to go to the Fields to Include tab. These are the fields that we're going to be able to include in our merge document when we create it. So these correspond directly with constituent and gift records. So if we have the address lines 1 and 2 selected, then those are going to pull directly from the address being used for the constituent in the mailing. That way we don't have to manually enter anything, and we can just have our placeholders where Razor's Edge will know what information to pull from those constituent records. There's also options for send one letter to each donor, or send one letter for each gift. This allows us to send only one letter to a donor if they've given multiple gifts within the query that we're using. So if they've given 3 gifts this month and we only want to send them one letter of recognition, we can set this per donor. If we want them to receive a letter for each gift they've given, we'll set it to per gift. From here, we're going to go to tab 3 for filters. This allows us to additionally filter the mailing further than what we have on the General tab. All of this is optional, but it can help if we're only wanting to include gifts that go to certain funds, appeals, campaigns, certain constituents based on their constituency code, etc. If we're wanting to filter this, say on constituency code, we can click the Include All option. It'll give us a drop-down where we can go to Include Selected, and we'll see our different constituency codes listed here. So if we have a mailing where we're only wanting board members to be included in it, we can switch them from the left-hand column to the right, click OK, and now they will be the only constituency codes considered when this mailing is run. If we want to switch it back to all, we can click the drop down again and go to include all. Now it will not filter on any specific constituency codes and include all of them in the mailing. Next, we'll go to the gift types tab. This is also an optional tab. This allows us to only include gifts of certain gift types in a mailing. So if we're only wanting to acknowledge cash gifts, then we would move everything else over to the left. And when we run it, all of these other gift types will not be considered in the mailing. If at any point you want to move other gift types over, all we have to do is highlight them and click this right pointing arrow. Also note these checkboxes at the bottom. This allows us to exclude zero amount gifts if we don't want them to be in the mailing. It allows us to set our pledge options, so we can use the pledge balance instead of the actual pledge amount. And if we have stock and property gifts, we can choose to use the sale amount, remove broker fees, etc. Next, we can go to the Attributes tab. This tab, also optional, allows us to include or exclude records with particular attributes. So if you check that box, we can include a specific attribute such as committees and particular descriptions such as development to make sure they are either included, if that is selected, or exclude them from the mailing. Also at the bottom, we have the option to add, update, or delete particular attributes from each record as the mailing is performed. Now that we have all of our filters selected, we can go to our address options. First, we're going to go to number 6 tab, individual address. This is where the address options for all individual constituents will be set up. For step 1, you'll see that we have the option to consider seasonal addresses. So if a constituent has an address that is marked as seasonal on their record, we can choose to look at those dates. That way, if they have a vacation home during the summer and that's set as a seasonal address on their constituent record, it'll go to that address as opposed to just the preferred address on the record. Next, on step 2, we can specify the order of importance of addresses to be used. So if no seasonal addresses are found, this is where it's going to go to next. Base, under this addresses to use column, it's going to use the first address it finds for these constituents. So for here, it's set up to send to the preferred address, but we can also choose to have the business address, the spouse address, or all of these other options as well. Using these arrows on the far right, we can move up or down the order of importance we want these addresses to be considered. So if we have a constituent who has a preferred address, it's going to send to that one. If it doesn't find anything for them, it's going to go to primary business, and then spouse primary business in that order. Step 3, we can search for special address attributes. And for step 4, we can specify what happens if no address is found. If no address is found, right now it's set to print the constituent with no address, but we can also choose to have them removed from the run, or we can also print a specific address. Next, we'll go to number 7, the organization address tab. And on here, this allows us to either send the mailing to the organization itself or to the contact for the organization, which is going to be set up as a relationship with that organization. If it's set up to mail only to the organization, we're going to have the same options that we saw on the individual address tab. If we have it set up to mail to contacts, however, we can specify what contracts we want to be considered. So if we click the contact information button, we can say we only want to include selected contact types, and we can tell it we only want the primary contact to be considered. That means if there are multiple contacts for an organization, one has the type of primary, one has the type of social or volunteer coordinator, only the one that has the primary contact role will receive the mailing. We also have the option for address attributes for those contacts as well, just like we did with individuals and organizations. And step 3 is going to be the same as step 4 on the other ones for what happens if no contact is found. Next, we're going to go to the Format tab. This gives us our different formatting options for the mailing itself. If you click on Miscellaneous, you'll see the amount display options, which specifies how gift amounts are going to appear in the mailing. For output options, you'll see that we have the ability to omit punctuation from the export, so keep any punctuation from showing when it's exported, or to show all addresses in all caps. We also have the sort options. By default, it's set to do not sort, but we can also choose to sort by the following fields, and we have these fields available. So we can either do it alphabetically, by date, letter type, by zip code, or we can select to use the sorting from the query that is used in the mailing. This option won't be available if a query isn't selected to be used in the mailing run. Now that we've got all of our settings selected, we're ready to actually go through and create the merge document and finish the merge. We're going to go up here and click this option for Send to WordMerd Wizard. We're going to click Next, and it's going to export the data from Razor's Edge to be used within Word. At this window, this is asking us whether we want these GIFs to be marked as acknowledged or not. Once a GIF has had its acknowledged status set to acknowledged or do not acknowledge, it will no longer be included in donor acknowledgement email runs. So I always recommend clicking No, making sure that the merge comes out as needed, and then going back through and hitting Yes again, running it one more time. Now we're at the page where it gives us the option to perform a simple or conditional mail merge. We're going to run through both, but we're going to do simple mail merge first. This is going to use one merge document for all of the GIFs that are being acknowledged in this run. When we click Next, we're going to see the option to either create or edit merge document, depending on whether this is your first time doing this mailing or if this is an existing mailing we're doing again. When you click that, it's going to open up a version of Word. I will note that this is 2010 version of Word, so yours may look slightly different if you have a different version of Microsoft Office installed. Whenever we're adding in fields in here, we want to make sure we go to the Add-ins tab, click Insert Razor's Edge field, and we'll see all of the options that we selected on the Fields to Include tab earlier when we were setting up the mailing. If you need to add in the date, like I have up here already, we can go to the Insert tab, go to Date and Time in the text box, and you can choose the format you want. We also have the box to update this automatically. That way when you run this in the future, that date will update itself. So I'm going to do a demonstration here to show you a little bit how we can add in some Razor's Edge fields. So for here, we want to add in how much the gift that they gave was. So we'll go to Insert Razor's Edge field. We'll go down to Amount, and this will pull in the amount of the gift for each record when we do the merge. Once we're done making any adjustments to a merge document, it's very important to go up here to Add-ins again and click the Save and Return to RE7 button. If we just click the Save button located up here, then it's not going to save our merge document and keep our changes. Once we click this, it'll save any changes made and take us back to the Edit Merge document page. Next, we're going to click the Next button. This is going to allow us to select where the file is being saved and what it is being saved as. Once we click the binoculars, we'll see our different options we have for where we want this to be saved. We're going to hit Finish Next, and it's going to create the document for us. So you'll see it pulled in our merge fields, it pulled in our gift amount, and it gave us all of our different letters. So we can close that, and normally that would be where we would end if we're just doing a simple mail merge. Now we're going to go back through and we're going to show how it works when we're doing a conditional mail merge. So we're going to click the Send to WordMerd Wizard button again, and all of this is going to be the same. We're going to hit No on this prompt one more time. And once we get here, we're going to select the button to perform a conditional mail merge. This will allow us to create different merge documents for different constituents or gifts based on a certain condition. Once we click Next, it's going to take us to where we can choose the conditional field we want to use. These are all the different fields we selected on the Fields to Include tab when we were setting up the mailing. We can choose to use certain funds as the condition, certain letters as the condition, city, state, any field to include, we can use that as the conditional field. For this, we're going to use letter, so a certain letter code will get a certain letter. We'll click Next, and here's where we can set up our conditional merge documents. You'll see ones that have already been set up are going to be included down here, or we can click New Document. Once we've clicked a new document, it's going to ask us when this letter is going to be used. So we're going to say this is going to be used when their letter code is equal to Playground Thank You. We can click Edit Merge Document to create the merge document for that letter code. And then you add in a description here. That way you'll know what this corresponds to. Once that is set up, you'll click OK, and you'll see that you have that new merge document set up here. From here, we're going to go ahead and click Finish. Just like earlier, it's going to ask us what we want this file to be saved as and where we're saving it to. We can click the ellipses if we want to choose different places we want this to go to. We'll click OK to finish, and it's going to go ahead and perform our mail merge. Now this is a prompt that you may or may not see when you're doing your conditional mailings. This is a security prompt that's built into Microsoft Office, and essentially all it's asking you if it's okay to pull information from a database into a mailing. If we click yes to each prompt, then you'll see the merge completes as it should. You're going to get one of those prompts for each conditional mail merge document you have set up. So if you notice, we got 3 of those dialog boxes to correspond with the 3 different mail merge documents that we have set up with that conditional mail merge. And that is the basics of setting up and performing simple and conditional mail merges. Next, we're going to go over just a few common errors and issues that we run into while performing these, including those dialog boxes we just saw, because there are some fixes and workarounds for those. Here are some common error messages that we'll see while performing mail merges. The first one is the error for no records meet specified criteria. This is telling us that no gifts fall within the filters that we've set for the mailing, or they've been marked as acknowledged or do not acknowledge on the gift record itself. The first thing to check when we get this error message is if we have a query to make sure that our constituent or gifts are contained within that query. Also check the date range set on the mailing, make sure our gifts that should be included in this fall within that date range, and also the filters tab to make sure that we don't have it set to exclude any certain funds, campaigns, or appeals that are located within the gifts that should be included in this mailing. The next is a prompt that's telling us no records matching the merge conditions were found. This is only going to happen when we're doing a conditional mail merge and none of the gifts within the mailing meet the merge conditions that we have set for that conditional mail merge. So if the condition for our mail merge is letter code and none of the conditional merge documents match the letter codes that are found within the gifts in our run, then we're going to get this prompt. So the first thing to check, the condition that we have set for the mailing, make sure it's set properly, and make sure we have a merge document created for each different conditional field. The next one is that prompt that we saw previously, and that is the SQL command box. This only happens with our conditional mail merges, and if we click yes through all of these, it will get rid of it. Microsoft has released a fix-it to remove the prompts, but clicking yes on all of these will allow the merge to complete. And these are some commonly used knowledge base solutions that can assist with any errors we get while running a mail merge. You'll see that first one is for no records meet specified criteria. That runs through all of the basic troubleshooting for when we get that message. The second one is that SQL box that we clicked yes to. That knowledge base solution contains a link to the Microsoft Fix-It that will keep that prompt from coming up in the future. The third one is for if the Razor's Edge hangs while running a conditional mail merge. That is often associated with that error message above, the select from export data message. The fourth one is for the no records matching the merge conditions. That contains basic troubleshooting. And the next one is for Word cannot start the converter. That is typically related to a Microsoft security patch, and there is also some other basic troubleshooting to resolve that issue. The next one is for if the letters for incorrect records are appearing when merging donor acknowledgement letters, so it looks like a previous mailing is coming up instead of the new one. And then that last one is all of the different knowledge bases we have to let you know which versions of Blackbaud products are compatible with certain versions of Microsoft Office. So if we're getting error messages, one of the first things we want to check is make sure our version of Razor's Edge is compatible with the version of Office being used. And that is all I have for you today. Hopefully this was helpful. And if you ever need any further issues, please feel free to check out our knowledge base, search for any specific errors or issues you're running into, and we're also here available in support. Thank you for listening, and have a good day.